There is a word in the Bible that appears 77 times. It shows up in the middle of ancient songs and prayers. Most people have read past it hundreds of times without stopping. It's not a name. It's not a command. It's not a prophecy or a promise. No one, not scholars, not translators, not ancient rabbis, fully agrees on what it means. And the King James Bible just left it there, untranslated, right in the middle of the most read poetry in human history. The word is Selah, and I think the reason no one can agree on what it means is actually the most important thing about it. If you've read the Psalms with any regularity, you've passed Selah dozens of times. Psalm 3 verse 2, Psalm 7 verse 5, Psalm 9 verse 16, Psalm 46 verses 3, 7, and 11, 3 times in the same song. Psalm 89 uses it 4 times. 74 times in Psalms alone, 3 more times in Habakkuk, 77 appearances across the Hebrew Bible. And what did most of you do every time you hit it? You either skipped it, or you paused, wondered for a second, and moved on. Here's what I want you to understand. That second pause, that wondering, that's Selah doing exactly what it was designed to do. Let's start with what we actually know. Selah is a Hebrew word appearing only in poetic texts, not in Genesis, not in the law, not in the historical books, only in poetry, only in music, always attached to a song that was meant to be performed, not just read. In the ancient Hebrew temple, the Psalms weren't read silently at a desk. They were sung, performed by a choir of Levites with instruments, cymbals and harps and lyres and trumpets. The Psalms were the temple's concert hall. And Selah appears in the score, not in the lyrics, in the score. The Greek translators of the Old Testament, working around 250 BC, translated Selah as diapsama, an interlude, a break in the musical texture, something happening between the verses that the text alone couldn't capture. They weren't translating a word. They were translating a musical instruction. Now, here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Scholars have been arguing about this word for 2,000 years, and they have not reached agreement. The most common theory is that Selah comes from a Hebrew root meaning to lift, as in, lift the voice, lift the instruments, a crescendo in the music, the ancient equivalent of fortissimo, play louder here. The second theory, it comes from a different root meaning to pause, a rest in the music, the way a conductor holds a note longer than expected, a fermata, a breath between the phrase and what comes next. A third theory connects it to the Aramaic word for forever or eternity, meaning, what was just said stands eternal. Remember it. And a fourth theory says it was simply a prompt for the congregation. Bow now. Fall silent now. This is the moment to be still. None of these theories can be fully proven. And here's the thing about that, all of them agree on one element. Whatever Selah means, it means stop. In some way, for some purpose, it means not yet. Don't continue, not without pausing first. Here's what convinced me. Look at where Selah actually lands in the Psalms. Not what it means in theory, but what it does in practice. Psalm 3 verse 2, many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. Selah. The song just said, everyone thinks God abandoned you. Selah. Psalm 46 verses 2 and 3, though the earth gives way, though the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its surging. Selah. The song just described complete cosmic collapse. Selah. Psalm 89 verse 4, I will establish your offspring forever and build your throne for all generations. Selah. A covenant, an unbreakable promise. Selah. Do you see what Selah is doing? It's not marking random moments. It consistently lands after something that deserves weight, after something devastating, after something astonishing, after something you should not be allowed to just read past. It marks the places where if you continued immediately, you would have missed the point. And then there's this one. Psalm 46 verse 10, be still and know that I am God. Selah. The command to be still, followed immediately by the word that tells you to stop. The psalm does not trust you to obey its own instruction, so it writes the pause into the score. Here's why I think the untranslatability is actually the message. Every generation of translators faced the same problem. They had a word that resisted precise definition, and they had to decide what to do with it. Jerome, the 4th century scholar who produced the Latin Vulgate, translated almost the entire Old Testament. He left Selah untranslated. The King James translators in 1611 left it untranslated. The English Standard Version says Selah and adds a footnote. The meaning of the Hebrew word Selah, used frequently in Psalms, is uncertain. It may be a musical or liturgical direction. The NIV just leaves it as Selah. The Message paraphrase sometimes omits it entirely. Every single translator in every generation essentially said, we don't know exactly, but we're not going to pretend we do. Which means for more than 2,000 years, the word has been doing the same thing in every language it's ever appeared in, making the reader stop and ask, what does that mean? It has been doing that in your Bible. It has been doing that in Jerome's Bible. It has been doing that in the Greek Bible of 250 BC. The uncertainty is ancient, and the stopping is the point. So here's what I think Selah actually is. Not a fermata exactly, not a translation note, not just a musical direction. It's an invitation. Every time it appears after something the songwriter believed deserved more than a reading. It deserved a sitting. You just read that God will not be moved. Don't move yet. You just read that the mountains are collapsing. Don't go on yet. You just read a promise that extends to all generations. Stay here for a moment. The ancient Hebrew worship tradition understood something that modern reading culture tends to forget. Some things need to be heard before they can be understood, and some things need to be understood before you can keep going. Selah is the score telling the choir, the music stops here, not because the song is over, but because what was just sung is important enough to let land before the next line begins. The Psalms are the most emotionally honest book in the Bible. Joy and despair, trust and abandonment, praise and anger, all of it written down, all of it left in. And 77 times in the middle of all of that, there is a word that simply says, wait. I want to know, is there a verse or a psalm that has your own personal Selah, a line you keep coming back to, something you read that made you stop, even if you didn't know why? Drop it in the comments, even just a reference. Psalm 23, Psalm 46, Psalm 139. Let me know where your Selah is. And if this gave you something to sit with, there are more videos right here. We go deep, but not complicated.